People who get locked into a vision. All right, that's it, man. That's their drive. That's their passion. Critics don't matter. This don't matter. They're going to do whatever it fucking takes to be the best at what they do.
This is Dave Tate with another edition of Table Talk. Today I have Mason, one of our interns, with us, and he's going to be asking me questions. I'm going to ask him questions. I've tried not to talk to him at all up until because I hate having the same conversations twice. So I didn't want to go through the what are you in school for, what are you doing, all that yesterday. So he probably thinks I'm a dick as far as right now. The other thing that we're going to do with this too is I'm going to be corresponding back and forth with him. So anybody who's in the strength and conditioning field, that's correct. Mm-hmm. I did get that part right. I knew that one. Wants to follow along because you'll probably be able to extract a lot of information from this to be able to help you with your career path, or if you are in the field now and you're stuck and you're trying to figure out which direction to go, this will probably help with that as well. The other thing is I will take any question training related, so if you guys push it through to the feed, it will still be like an ask me anything type thing that we do. So we'll kind of have two things going on at the same time, sort of. We'll see how it plays out. Anyhow, Mason is in school for strength. And what's your degree?
It's at Iowa State. It's the major's kinesiology, and you have an option, and my option's exercise science.
Okay. And what year?
Senior. So I needed to do an internship for credit to graduate. You take all your classes at Iowa State for exercise science, and then your last semester is just an internship. And so that's what this is.
Okay, so you're done.
I'm done with classes, but I have to complete this or I don't get the degree.
Gotcha. Okay, so the classwork is done. Cool. Okay. That takes care of the education part, because I kind of know. Well, let's for the people that are listening, let's kind of dive back a little bit. Mm-hmm. For the kinesiology, what the courses there are kind of for the exercise science kinesiology, because it's pretty much where it wraps around is the exercise science. Mm-hmm. What was the majority of the coursework for you? I'd
say it's a pretty 50-50 split in between like the typical hard science type stuff, like I took my intro biology, my intro chem, then I took my anatomy lab, physiology lab, biomechanics, physics, stuff like that. And then the other half was the more exercise specific stuff. Like I took a lot of classes where I learned the more personal trainer type stuff, I'd say, and like what are heart healthy cholesterol levels, like what are periodization schemes, what are the prescription, that you'd give for cardio, for strength training, endurance, hypertrophy, strength from beginner, intermediate, advanced.
Okay. Was it any of that ACM or ACSM guidelines?
So a lot of them pulled from like either the textbooks that you get for like certifications and type stuff. I think one of them was ACSM.
Okay.
One of them was ACE. I had what was called Advanced Strength and Conditioning, which just used the CSCS textbook. So it pulled from a variety on the softer type stuff.
Okay. Anything in regards to psychology, leadership, any of those?
I had an exercise psychology class, but I had the option to take a sports psychology class that was different, but I would have had to take both, I believe. Like I couldn't sub the sports psychology for the exercise psychology. I had one business class. It was a very introductory business class, but it was like branded kinesiology wise. And he even got to take a adult field trip to a bunch of gyms in the area and talk with their business owners.
An adult field trip.
It'd been a while since I'd gone on something that resembled a field trip, and that's basically what it was.
Okay. When you went into, or when you decided for this degree, mm-hmm. What was the aspiration? What's the career goal?
So this is actually this is my 5th year at Iowa State. So I came in as pre-dietetics, to be a dietitian, for anyone that doesn't know. I did a year of that, decided it wasn't really for me anymore for a variety of reasons. tried switching into engineering because I had like a computer background in high school. So I was computer or software engineering at Iowa State for a year. Really decided that wasn't going to work for me. Like, it just not something I could do for 40 plus hours a week. So I switched into exercise science, not entirely knowing what I was going to do. But the first thing I did was they called it a pre-internship with the football team. So I was the intern of the interns. I was only there 10 hours a week. Yeah, I basically came in 3 times a week, hour and a half before the lift, set it up, mostly stood there during the lift, got to help sometimes, like if an injured athlete had to do some modification almost on his own, I stood there, watched him, counted reps, and cleaned up afterwards, and then went off to classes. So that was when I started to think like strength conditioning was more what I was interested in.
In that sector? Mm-hmm. So in the, like a university strength and conditioning coach?
Yeah, university collegiate strength conditioning coach.
Okay. So let's go into your training background, because obviously you went that direction because you like to train. That's typically where everybody starts.
Yeah,
It's
I like to train.
Yeah,
I
because
know
they
that.
like to train.
Yeah.
And it's like, how can I make a living out of training?
Yeah.
So then there's different career paths to be able to do that. So when did you start training, working out, whatever you want to call it?
I wasn't like super, I wasn't the competing in powerlifting at 13 years old. If you want to get really technical, I had like an 8th grade preparation for high school strength and conditioning, how to squat, bench, deadlift thing that was like squat, bench, power clean. That wasn't much, wasn't really that good of a base, mostly because at that age I wasn't taking it seriously at all. I wrestled my first year of high school, was still like not super, like kind of not really focused, I'd say, at that. Got into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for 2 years, started to pick up weights alongside of that towards the end of high school. My brother convinced my dad to get a power rack at some point, so I got to train with a barbell on my own in my garage. Rejoined wrestling my high school or senior year of high school. So like that's, that time was when I was lifting a little more seriously, like 3 times a week, squat, bench, deadlift. And then after that, just got more into supplementing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as I got back into that as high school ended. But my second semester of my first year at Iowa State, I joined the weight club there. So luckily we have our own gym. Like, we don't have to rent a facility. We don't have to travel to another gym. We actually get our own individual gym just for the weight club that we get to fill with our equipment that we have to buy. But
Yeah.
and so that's when I got a little more into the strength sports side. They had they do a mock meet every year. So I got to do a fake powerlifting meet. That's my powerlifting history. And then when I went home for summer, there was a new gym opened up in town, Quad City Strongman. And I was like, well, Strongman always looked cool. I'll at least go and train at this gym because it's that or the YMCA. And then, I come in May to this gym and they're like, oh, in July we have a competition. So I did my first novice competition at like 18 years old with a couple months of serious strongman training. Then I've just been competing. I did that competition, did another one a couple months later that would qualify me for nationals because I competed in teen nationals, lightweight teen nationals even, if I needed more qualifiers to be strong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then I kind of dropped the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and started focusing more on strongman because I wanted to go to nationals, wanted to do well.
Yeah.
And then I've just a couple competitions, 2 to 3 every year since then.
So how many do you think you've done?
8-ish, somewhere around there.
Good. Okay. Now, from a career standpoint, we've established that the goal is the strength and conditioning coach. So we can talk about that. So this is like the God, I hate to ask this shit because it's like the standard job interview type of question. But
Yeah.
this isn't a job interview, so you can answer it for real. You don't have to give some bullshit answer to try to get the job. Where do you see yourself in, say, a year? I mean, that's pretty easy to figure out.
In 1 year, I'll ideally be a graduate assistant somewhere working on my master's.
Okay. And what do you think the master's will be?
Whatever they offer, if I'm being honest. I know. I mean,
You got to have a few things in your head, though.
well, ideally, I'd like to do a master's related to exercise science
Yeah.
because I really like the science part, and especially I would like to delve into the more hard science part because I kind of wrapped up my last classes and I was like, oh, that's it. You know, that's all I learned from these guys. I felt like I kind of wanted more out of everything.
Yeah.
And so it would be awesome if I could do one in, kinesiology, sports performance, whatever that college calls it. But like the first Olympic sports coach that I interned under, he was super qualified, super knowledgeable, but he ended up getting one, like it was technically a business degree because that's what all they had to offer while using you as a sub coach.
Yeah. Okay, so that would be the 1 year mark. Or what about 3? Now it gets a little fall year, but you can still kind of see.
Yeah. I mean, 3 years, ideally, I'll be somewhere, 3 years is probably a little short to be like, oh, I'm going to be at
Yeah.
a D1 school,
But a coaching position.
but a coaching position.
Okay. And then 5 years would put you in a higher coaching
Higher,
position
yeah.
because you're going to be in the rat race at that point.
I think the bigger schools are doable in 5 years from now, but
Okay, for those following around that have no idea where we're going or where I'm going with all this, there is a plan where if you're in the same boat as what he is or what Mason is, and you kind of know where you want to be 3 years out, 5 years out gets foggy because
Yeah.
there's too many variables that can change the trajectory of what's going on. But if you go 3 years out, then you just work backwards.
Yeah.
It's like, where do I need to be in
Yeah.
2 years? Where do I need to be 1 year? It's really not that complicated when it's in manageable chunks. People start saying, where do you want to be in 5? They'll usually start at 5 years. Where do
Yeah.
you see yourself in
Yeah.
5 years? Fuck, I don't know.
Yeah.
You're going to hire me or not? Then I can tell
Depends.
you. Yeah. Then 10 years, like, fuck, I don't know, dead.
Yeah.
You
knows?
have no idea. But when it's 1 to 3, it's definitely
Yeah.
bite-sized chunks. And when you ask somebody where they want to be in 1, then you ask them where they want to be in 3. If you don't see that path is progressing forward,
Yeah.
where yours progressed forward, or some people be, I don't know, I just want a fucking job.
Yeah.
And then 3 years, it's a completely different, it's a more focused answer. Then the guidance needs to be a little bit more pulled in,
Yeah.
from that standpoint. That's just, now it's a matter of knowing where you want to be in 3 years, and you start clicking that back. How's that become possible, doable? And while I like to have people have backup plans, I don't necessarily want it to be called
Yeah.
a backup plan because you really shouldn't.
Yeah, yeah.
But if you're building the right education and work experience background, the backup plan works out. It works itself into the plan.
Yeah.
Because it's there. The stupid way to go about doing it is to say, this is where I want to be in 3 years, and not continuing to build your education and your experience. Because then when it doesn't work out, fuck, there's nothing to fall. You see what I'm saying? There's nothing to fall back on. Where with the strength and conditioning profession, you kind of laid the path out a little bit.
Yeah.
That if you can get in, no matter how you get in to a school as a GA or something like that, and then you can have your master's partially taken care of or completely taken care of. Then, as you said, it doesn't matter really what it is. You got to take what the school is best known for. So if it's an MBA, it's an MBA. If it's education, it's education. I do think as a strength coach, it should either be an MBA, something related to the exercise science, or education, teaching.
Yeah.
Because teaching is the ultimate
Yeah.
backup
Yeah.
plan for anybody that wants to be a strength coach, and it also is going to make you a better coach.
Oh yeah.
Because there's going to be more interpersonal communications and more nonverbal communications, and even though you don't know where you'll teach, you may not want to teach a bunch of third graders or fourth graders, or wherever it is, but the bulk of the strength and conditioning jobs are going to be at the high school level that don't pay shit.
Yeah.
But teaching does.
Yeah.
So you kind of that would be the backup plan.
Plan B.
Plan B. Because then you still get to do what you really love to do. You have a higher level of job security because high school coaches don't get fired when, you know, coaching changes and stuff like that, or the strength coaches don't. But you don't make shit. You know, you'll get a stipend for watching the weight room, but you make your money with the teaching. So as you move up through the profession, you don't make money through the teaching, you make money through the coaching, but the risk is higher. Yeah. You know, and the income can be higher too. Yeah. Can be. Can. You know, that's the other reality check that I hope that you've been made aware of.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
You can look up, you know, every public university's salary online, so it's not a mystery to me. Yeah. But here, I mean, the thing is, and I don't like to discourage anybody, you can always see who the top 10, top 20 are. Yeah. And they're doing pretty well. Yeah. Who's to say you can't fucking be that in 10 years? Exactly. You know, did they think that they were going to be? You know, at some point, probably not, but at some point in time, they were trying. Yeah. And then at some point in time, they said, yeah, I'm fucking going to be that. And they're, and the profession is still growing and pushing to try to get the lower end jobs to pay a little bit more. Yeah. Because right now they're not even a living wage. It's under minimum wage if you actually factor it out. Yeah, with how many hours they're putting in. Yes, it's way under minimum wage. It's like $2 an hour or something like that. 75 cents an hour. But that's what everybody had to go through. So I guess the main advice with that is keep your lifestyle affordable. Yeah. You know, because you want to be able to, it may go up, it may go down. You want to be able to pivot wherever the best places are. From a strength and conditioning standpoint, I'd be remiss if I didn't tell anybody who's listening to go back and look at everything Mark Watts ever wrote for us or in his coaching blog, because when he came to us, he was done with the strength and conditioning profession and was in it for 20 some years. So he told it how it was. There was no bullshit with it, and what you should look for, you know, an internship, what you should look for from a networking perspective, you know, and all those kind of things, because the longer they're in the field, the more honest they'll be about it. You know, it's kind of the tricky part. Yeah. You know, it kind of comes with the whole strength and conditioning profession. Everybody goes through different learning curves. You know, I like to say that this will kind of illustrate how everybody goes through this, and it's pretty much everybody. When I graduated from high school, I had a job in high school. My senior year as a fitness instructor at a health and racquetball club. Man, I thought I knew fucking everything about training. I knew every Weider principle there was. There was nothing I didn't know about training in my mind. Yeah. Then I went to college. Then I realized, fuck, I don't know anything. You know, I thought I knew, but I don't know shit. And then through college, you know, I increased, you know, my education level. And then when I graduated, I'm like, yeah, I think I know pretty much everything. At least 95%. Yeah. There might be 5% I don't know, but I fucking got this. You know, I got it. And I had, you know, all the powerlifting experience and all the practical experience. By the time I graduated, I probably had 10,000 hours in the field easily. Then I went into the workforce and realized, fuck, I don't know anything. Then I met Louis Simmons. I really don't know anything. And then after 5 or 6 years, okay, I know everything. Now I know 98% of everything. Then I met Buddy Morrison, it drops back down. So every 10 years, I realize I know less. Yeah. And now I know fucking 15% of what there is to know. As you gain more experience, you become better, but you also learn there's a lot of shit you don't really know. Yeah. And that doesn't matter, because when it all comes down to it, it's not really what somebody knows, it's how they can apply what they do know. Because the majority of athletes that you'll ever see or you'll ever work with
are all going to be beginners in the weight room.
Yeah.
1 to 3 years experience at the most, maybe 4 or 5. That's fucking everybody. That's even professional athletes.
Yeah.
Because they're masters at their sport,
Yeah.
not in the
Yeah.
weight room. So you have to become a master at training beginners. So the actual science and exercise and all that part, you don't really need to know that much. But you do need to know how to communicate with people and how to get them to execute on what you're trying to get them to do. Because that's what makes the best coaches the best coaches. Because you can walk into, and you'll see this as you move through your career, you'll walk into established weight rooms, credible weight rooms. I don't know how you want to specify it. Popular. I don't want to say a conference because then everybody knows what the fuck I'm talking about. You'll walk into a big time school.
Yeah.
Okay, let's just go that way. A big time school or maybe a professional franchise. And you'll watch them train. And you're going to think, especially since you're doing strongman, say they're doing some strongman stuff, farmers walk, stuff like that. And you're going to see the most atrocious shit you've ever seen in your life.
Yeah.
And you're going to wonder, what the fuck? These guys don't know a damn thing about what they're doing. I mean, I've seen it in the squat, bench press, deadlift, clean, all this. It's like, Jesus, they shouldn't even fucking squat.
Yeah.
Just stop. Go do leg presses. You know, it's that bad. But what if you pay attention, what you're going to see is the franchises and the schools that are winning their conferences and winning their divisions and all the other kind of stuff. All the players play together. All right, they work as a team, they work as a unit, and there's something to be said for that when it's a high-level school, and the second place guy wants the first place guy's job, but has to change the mindset where the second place guy wants the first place guy to do better. Right, that's coaching, because this can be a complete clusterfuck.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then at the professional level, the second place, he wants to play because he's going to get a better contract when, signing time comes again and so forth. So the best coaches are the ones that can get all the players to work together to win games, bottom line. So that doesn't mean they have to be perfect in the weight room. They have to be perfect in the weight room of getting the players to buy in and to work together. And the strength and conditioning coach, the strength and conditioning assistants, it probably drops off a little bit when you get to the interns because the players know they're not going to be there very long. But the assistants in the head strength coach spend more times with the athletes than probably any other coach. So they are the influencers. They are the influencers of getting them to buy in the program and getting them to believe that they're a part of the program, and not only a part of it, but determine the success of everybody else in the program. That's coaching. Right? That's the difference between a strength and conditioning coach and somebody who's a performance coach at a private training center. I would say even that has a lot of the buy-in and everything else with that. But that becomes more of an individual, small group type of effort where they can do more things, more cool things, than what a strength and conditioning coach can. If it's somebody in my position that doesn't even charge for shit, just works with power lifters and tries to get into the, I can do everything I want. But so I can call on that 10% that nobody else is ever going to use, but that 10% nobody else is ever going to use is because it doesn't need to be used. But I still have I still have to build the trust with the person to be able to suggest what they should or should not do. If I don't have that trust, even if I have credibility and everything else, they'll listen, but they're not going to buy in. If I build that trust, then when I suggest something, they're going to buy in, they're going to do it, and they're going to believe it's going to help them. But that is the critical part, and everybody's different. You'll be different than, somebody that's been here for 3-4 years. It's a constant process of trying to figure out, what motivates. I guess it's not motivation, but how to get that person to buy in, and you're going to fail a lot. It's going to be, okay, that didn't work. Okay, that didn't work. And there's a degree of discomfort, over a period of time too. And But once you figure that out, then that's when you can call upon all the other kind of stuff and make the difference. So that's like coaching 101.
Yeah.
But that, honest to God, that is the most important part, is to be able to build the credibility is kind of easy.
Yeah.
In time. Credibility kind of leans itself to the person if they've been around 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, whatever it's going to be. And name recognition, all that kind of, but that doesn't mean a goddamn thing.
Yeah.
Because you can have the most credible coach in the world, but if they cannot connect with the person that they're working with,
Yeah.
no progress. They failed that person.
Yeah.
Okay, and the best coaches won't fail anybody. They'll find a way, even if they have to find somebody else, an assistant, maybe an intern, to be able to establish that connection. And once it's connected, they can migrate it over to them.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I am from that standpoint, to be able to throw out there. So now that I've yapped for 15 or 20 minutes, what questions would you have?
I got a few. Thinking if we could continue almost on that tangent. What do you think that the exercise science programs at colleges are missing?
It's been a long time since I've seen the curriculum. I think the biggest thing that they're missing, that's why I asked about the psychology.
Yeah.
I think they're extremely disconnected. They were extremely disconnected from the interpersonal communication standpoint. And it's not only that. I think that's the most important to coaching, is you have to be able to build that trust with whoever you're trying to coach. And there's ways to do that you can learn in a classroom, at least the format, right? But you still have to apply it and do it. So by not having that, I think they're not teaching them how to coach. And I don't know if that's necessarily a bad thing, because it is exercise science is the degree. So where is that degree where are they foreseeing, the students going into the workplace? My degree was in exercise science and nutrition, and I had to individualize it. Because it wasn't, when I looked at the curriculum, I got it. Like, I got all the physiology. I understand why all that was in there. Is it really going to help you? Probably not, but it gives you, I call it a bullshit detector.
Yeah.
All right. So when people, and you had the nutrition background, that's where most of the bullshit is. So you don't have to be, have a PhD in nutrition to know that what somebody's saying just doesn't sound right. It might be right, but at least those bells went off, like, oh, fuck, maybe bullshit. Then you're going to go look it up instead of just blindly saying, yep, that's it. That's the same thing that the exercise physiology, the biomechanics, and the kinesiology does. Is when somebody starts speaking about stuff, training related.
Yeah.
You're like, ooh, that don't sound right.
Yeah.
And that's what you pay all the money for, is to be able to say, that doesn't sound right.
Yeah.
Now, somebody could make the argument and say, just think that about everything. Well, that's a lot of fucking time, going back and doing the research. If something sounds kind of on point, then you can roll with it and engage in the conversation and kind of go from there. That part, I think that they're missing big time. I think that's the biggest. And not only interpersonal, but public speaking as well. Because you are going to have to, if you're in the coaching realm, you're going to have to speak to a group of 50 players.
Yeah.
They're going to be all sitting down. You have to be able to speak with authority. Even if you don't know what the fuck you're saying. Yeah. If somebody that knows what they're saying, they're an expert when it comes to training and all this stuff, and they get up there and they don't know how to speak, they're not going to believe a fucking word. On the flip side, the person that doesn't know a frickin' thing, but knows how to speak, gets up there and demands, attention, they're going to believe everything he says. So it's doing a disservice to the coach or the degree if these students are not being taught how to speak with authority, because they're going to get into the real world and the idiots know how to speak with authority. And now you don't have the credibility because of something that's actually really not that complicated to develop, but you have to be thrust out there to do it because people are scared to death to speak in front of large groups. So actually the best place to do it is in a college classroom of 100 people. It's like, get up here, stand in front of the fucking podium and talk. They're all your peers, but you're still fucking scared, to get up there and do it. So I think a public speaking course is me. Then on the next level down, business, you still have to understand basic finances and all the other things associated with the field and profession, because a lot of coaches end up being responsible for a budget that they have to maintain and stay within, or at least dealing with capital expenses and so forth. I can sit here and say none of it's really that hard to learn, but you'd be surprised how many people have a real hard time with that. I'm not saying that they need to understand every intricacy of reading a profit and loss statement or balance sheet or anything like that, but they need to know, assets, liability, stuff, basic business stuff. And I don't think that's changed. I think with any degree in that field, you might get one business course, maybe, and it's basic. I mean, like stuff you should have learned in junior high school. And you might get one section of a psychology course that's about communication. So you'll have your sports psychology, and maybe there's a chapter related to public speaking to the team. Then there's a chapter about, how to speak to a player behind closed doors, or if you should, if there should be somebody else in there. Now I'll just stop there because it can keep going.
Yeah. So you wrote an article that was talking about how to rank like numerically a powerlifting coach. Mm-hmm. Do you think you would change that much for a strength conditioning coach?
Yeah. Because it was brought to my attention that if you use what I put out there and I'm trying to think of the person. I want to give credit where credit's due. The person that brought this to my attention. Oh God, I can't. Apologize. But they were interested in, I think, jiu-jitsu. So they were looking for the best coach. Never done it before. Mm. So they kind of used, what I have in there, but applied it to a different discipline. Mm. And they found the person that had all those things. But after working with them for a little while, they realized the person doesn't know anything about teaching a beginner. Mm-hmm. Because usually when you fill those requirements that I have there, you're going to be working with intermediates to advanced in whatever realm that you're dealing with. So if it's powerlifting is what I specifically wrote about. So you're going to be working with intermediates to advanced, but you're not going to be working with people that have never lifted a weight before in their life. So and I have a problem with that, be honest. I mean, I did it for a decade, working with Gen Pop. But when you get away from something for so long, you forget a lot of the real basic shit that you just overlook. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, fuck, I didn't even think about, their feet need to be flat. They need how they breathe. Things like that are so basic that, I have a hard time even thinking of what they are, because I just take it for granted. And so that's why I say no, because when you're dealing with strength and conditioning, that's all you're really working with are absolute beginners. So there would have to be another criteria in there that probably not even another criteria, but what is their experience working with, not powerlifters, but say if I was to relate it to the same subgroup, powerlifters, what's their experience working with beginner powerlifters? Have they been doing this for 5-10 years? Were they ever that weak? Because fact of the matter is some people that come into strength and conditioning, powerlifting, may have never struggled with anything under a 315 bench. Yeah. they're just strong as fuck to begin with. And they're like, wow, this is the sport for me. And then there's more. It's more people than you think. I don't want to say they're genetic freaks or genetically gifted for the sport, but they're more genetically gifted than they're not.
Yeah.
All right. So when you're not the person that had to struggle for a 135 bench, you have a hard time relating to what that's like to work up to that 135. Mm-hmm. In hindsight, if you've not been the person that had to figure out how to bench 500, it's hard for the person that's only benched 185 to relate to what it takes to bench the 500. So I'm pretty confident in saying it's two different skill sets. So that's why you have head coaches, assistant coaches, and so forth. And the head coach should listen to the assistant coaches and the interns because they're going to be closer to that beginner level. The cueing will be different. What they see is going to be different because they're not looking at the things that most coaches that have been around for 30 years are looking to.
I think I got another one that comes off of that. What do you think the pros and cons of strength and conditioning coaches that are either former or current strength sports athletes like?
I think experience matters a lot, where you can't, how do I want to explain this? You can't, let's take somebody that, say it's a lineman. It's an NFL lineman that's now a strength and conditioning coach. He knows exactly what it feels like to be in the trenches at the highest level. You can't find assistants and interns that know that unless, they've been there. So I think the value is extremely high. Is it necessary? No, because the reason it's not necessary is, let's say you have a head strength and conditioning coach that hasn't played, in the trenches, because you can make the argument to me that, well, okay, you're speaking about alignment, but what about skill players? DBs, wide receivers, stuff like that. What about that? Because he sure as fuck doesn't have the experience with that. It's a good point. They don't, but they have the experience of, the game at the highest level. But if they got the strength and conditioning coach that's never played at all, they can hire the assistant that has, and then take their knowledge. As long as, and I'm really big, and you got to listen to your assistants. As long as he listens to the assistants and they come to, whatever the solution is to be able to make the players better, then that's all that matters. So I do think it's important, but if you don't have it, you can always bring it in underneath you, and vice versa. If that's all you have is the experience and you don't have all the education and the exercise science and all that background, then you bring in what you don't possess yourself to complement yourself. That's kind of the whole purpose of assistants. The worst thing you want to do is to bring in assistants that are exactly like you, because you don't need that. You're already you.
Yeah.
You need somebody that's going to question things, that's, going to bring different ideas to the table that you wouldn't have thought of because the experience is different.
So what about if the coach is a strength sport athlete, like a power lifter? Like, do you think being a power lifter gives you any sort of advantage or puts on some sort of blinders maybe? Then
it can be both.
Yeah.
It depends upon the person. If they know where their blind spots are, then it's fine. Then they're going to have, a different perception of what strength is. Mm-hmm. A power lifter is going to think 700 pound squat, that's fucking lineman should be squatting 700, 750. So their perception of strength it's skewed, because it's higher, because that's all they've done.
Yeah.
Where, somebody that's, as we talked about, just the football experience, 500 pound squats probably get, 600 pound squats probably get. So the perception changes, and that can have a positive impact, because they're going to, at that point, 300 squats sucks. 400 sucks. You can do better than that. And perception is kind of everything. But if they don't understand that, is a lineman really going to be better if they squat 650 or 800? Who knows? I'd have to look at their skills.
Yeah.
I'd have to talk to the position coach. I'd have to see. More than likely, the person that possesses the highest level of strength needs to work more on their skill set, and vice versa. So it's yes and no. I think the better answer to that is, regardless of what the experience level and education level is and background is, you have to know where your blind spots are. You need to know where the strengths are, but understand that can also play and be a weakness based upon whatever demographic you're working with. So I like to say, just assume you're always wrong.
Yeah.
It's better. That's a way better philosophy than assume that you're always right.
Yeah.
Way better. Because one way you're going to always make sure that the athlete is first. The other way, you're always making sure you're first. Mm-hmm. So you being first isn't going to win any games.
Yeah, yeah.
The athletes have to be.
Cool. What do you look for in interns? Beyond maybe just the generic of,
I don't give a fuck.
You don't?
No, I really don't.
Yeah.
It's more a matter of what they're looking for. Mm-hmm. If we can figure out what they're looking for, and then to help migrate what we need help with what they're looking for, then it's kind of a win-win.
Yeah.
So it's not really a matter. It's so fresh that you can't, you know what I'm saying? You can't really look for specific qualities.
Yeah.
Because the odds are they probably don't have them. Mm-hmm. But they have enough qualities to be able to do, basic stuff that you need help with, from that standpoint. And then to help them understand the basics of what they have to do to be able to get better. And I don't work a lot. Like, some of it's too specific with stuff I don't know. Like, if Josh has an intern for the video, I don't know fucking shit about that, so I can't really help a whole lot there.
Yeah.
So that question would be better geared towards, the specific department that's looking for certain things. But if it is, strength and conditioning intern, like what you're talking about, I really don't care. It doesn't matter to me, because I'll figure out, what your goals are, which I just asked, and what the trajectory is, and then how to provide the education to be able to give some basis to be able to help with that you're not going to be able to get in school. Just a reality perspective, I guess.
What should be considered before starting if you're trying to get a competitive powerlifting club started at your college? What things do you think are key to like drawing in people and getting that to grow?
You gotta find the lifters.
Yeah.
And if it was me, the first thing that I would do is to go to powerlifting meets that are the closest to the area and see if there's any people there. Granted, they're not going to be attending the college. So you got to figure out if they're allowed to train there. Okay. Because if they're allowed to train there, then that helps. And there was a powerlifting team in Bowling Green when I was there. I didn't train there. I trained someplace else, but they actively tried and wanted me to train there. I personally didn't want to train there because I wanted to train with lifters who were better than me. And there might have been one, maybe two, that would have been close to or better than what I was in the strength club or whatever it was called. Whereas at the gym I trained at, there were 6, 7, and then that's not counting the bodybuilders I trained there that were, pro or national level. So I was more interested in learning what I didn't know than the latter. But had I gone there, it would have brought 3 or 4 people with me from that standpoint. So it helps to build that base, because once you start to get a base, and that base, say it's over 4 or 5 people, and then more people will want to come. And then, if need be, you can get rid of the original 4 or 5 people.
Yeah.
But that it kind of, the growth attracts, growth. Now, if you got to only pull from the university, I don't know.
Yeah.
I really don't know. I would figure some way to use social media to be able to tap into, because that's probably going to be the way you can get the message to the most people. And then hopefully, if you can get the message to 1,000 people, maybe you get one. So by a process of just blasting, as many people as you can, you might pull a few. But I'm too far removed from that to give any more of an answer than just ideas.
Mm-hmm. This is a little vaguer. You have like a pretty, like, relative to your followers on like Instagram, relative to like elites, you have kind of your own brand built up. And obviously a lot of that's from just giving back so much. Mm-hmm. Do you think there's any other keys to you, at least personally, that cause you to blow up more online?
I've never tried to build my own personal brand. I don't want it.
Yeah.
So often I step out of the social media entirely, and because the goal is to build elite FTS, not me. And when you're trying to build, a valuation or of a company, then the bigger a person can get, it can be damaging to the company. Mm-hmm. You don't want to compete with your own company, and that to me, that can become a problem. Now, if the company's branded on your name, say Dave Tate's Elite FTS, then it's a different story, but I never want to do that because it's not me. That's why I've always kind of pulled away from that, because I'm only one entity of this whole company that's been around for 22 years. There's over 100 different, sponsored athletes, mm-hmm. and probably 100 different employees that have been, part of the company. They're the ones that have grown the company. I'm just figurehead. Yeah. That, and the aim of the company. That's my only job, is to make sure that the aim of the company stays intact, which isn't as easy as what people think it is, but that's my biggest role. So anything that develops in regards to my own personal brand, the reason I went with Under the Bar on Twitter and Instagram so many years ago, so people wouldn't put one and one together. Yeah. And they did, which is good, but I see in hindsight that was a mistake, mm-hmm. because that enabled the ability for that brand
to grow separately.
To grow separately, yes. And the other thing is, say with Instagram, for instance, the company didn't have an Instagram for the longest forever. Yeah. Only until I think maybe the last 3 years. The company page just dumped to mine. Because I set it up when Instagram started, I believe. Never used it, but I set it up. I'm like, well, fuck, there's 30, 40,000 followers, whatever it is. We'll just dump the company to there and just use the company with mine. And so that's why there's more followers there as well, because the company didn't have one, mm-hmm. and mine was the company. Yeah. But I haven't been on Instagram now for 3 because I'm pulling back. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm trying to pull back from it because of that reason, and then put more of the effort into Elite FTS. And in all honesty, the Elite FTS gets more traffic than my Instagram does, and anything else does. So that's where I have to spend the majority of my time. And sometimes because of convenience, it's easier to post on social media than it is on my blog, for mm-hmm. instance. But the disadvantage of that is now the service that I'm providing to the readers and supporters of the site drops for me to, see what I'm saying? So there's a balance between the two. So I really don't have any marketing ideas or plans for people that want to develop their own personal brand.
Yeah.
Because I've never really tried to. I've mentored dozens of people on building their own personal brand. And from that standpoint, the important thing to realize is it's going to take time to do it right. You know, if you try to go the route of the fitness industry, you can probably grow it fast, but you're going to have to reinvent yourself probably every 3 or 4 years. Because I could write a whole article on how to become an internet guru in, you know, less than a year. Actually, I'll go on a rant now. Go find out what everybody's talking about. Right? See what's popular, see what's trending, you know, see what's going around, because there's always different, you know, there's always things going around. And then say the fucking complete opposite, right?
Yeah.
So if everybody's saying, look, you need to, you know, flex your stomach and push it out against the belt, you know, in 360, you know, however they want to say that's bracing, fuck that. Say you need to pull it in. All right. And then explain exactly why everybody else is wrong, but you're right, and you have to pull it in. And then that's going to create buzz. People are going to follow you. So if everybody's saying, you know, knees out, you know, push your knees out, fuck that. Say push your knees in. All right. Then it's going to attract attention. And that's it. And it's cyclical. All right. So for many years, people will say, you know, pull your stomach and work the transverse abdominis, and then that will change and it's going to go the opposite direction. It all kind of goes around. So if you catch it, you know, the opposite of what it is, but then you always speak in definitive statements, like this is the only way to do it. Bottom line. All right. That makes you the guru, because, oh, fuck, did you hear what they said? Yeah. The fact of the matter is there's a lot of ways to do it. You know what I'm saying? But see, that doesn't give you publicity. That doesn't give you exposure. Because it's the fucking truth. The truth never fucking sells.
Yeah.
Let me take that back. The truth does sell, but it slows at a lot slower rate. All right. Than that definitive bullshit, where common sense, and anybody that's been through college and has looked at any research, real research, not like I looked through Muscle and Fitness or, you know, any of this kind of stuff, but real research, you know pretty quick that for every study, there's a study that contradicts that. All right. In every study, it says, hey, look, we can't really say this definitively. There are more studies need to be done. All right. So there are some things that are, I'm not going to sit there and say nothing's absolute. There are some things that are pretty damn close to absolute, but there's a lot of variance, you know, with what works and what doesn't work. And when you start speaking in absolutes, and the industry wants that. I used to write for, and it was the same with all magazines, so I don't have to sit there and avoid saying any magazine. But I used to write for 3 or 4 different magazines or online sites that were bigger online sites, and they wanted that. Yeah. Because that brings attention, that brings traffic, that brings clicks. I wouldn't do it. Like, it ain't fucking the truth. I'm not going to do that. And I also don't have a program to sell. You know, so that's kind of the catch-22 with all that. But the person that really ends up hurting from it all is the person that's actually trying to learn, because they become extremely confused. Because everybody's contradicting everybody else, because the fact of the matter, everybody else is just trying to find how they can position themselves to be able to stand out from the rest of the pack, because they want to sell their program or whatever it is they want to do. And that's the industry. It is. Yeah. And it's what makes me sick. You know, so I've always kind of avoided that. Yeah. But it creates, like I said, it creates a slower growth from that standpoint. And but it's true, because at the end of the day, the only person that really matters is the person that you're trying to help, that's trying to get better in the weight room or trying to get stronger. And when assessing that, if it's, you know, a reader that's reading, you know, on the site, or somebody you're working with in person, you have to put yourself in their position. Like, you know, they're looking to figure out how to get stronger, you know, without being confused. So how can you get to that person to be able to help them attain the goals that they have without creating this? Because when you create confusion what happens with people is they start questioning what they're currently doing. So say you're 6 weeks in to training for the next strongman competition. So now you're in a competitive macro cycle, competitive blocks to be able to peak for that. And then you read something, about 6 weeks into it, and you have another 3 blocks to go. So another 12 weeks to go. You start questioning, oh shit, is this what I should be doing right now? The worst thing you can do is to deviate from the path. You can modify, and do that, but to say, oh shit, I need to drop everything and do this, which happens all the time. All that does is keep your wheels spinning in motion, and you never go higher. You just stay at that same level. And it's hard for people to understand because everybody has the beginner gains and they think they're going to last forever. And then when they don't understand that it's a process that you have to go through and just keep hammering away, and the progress will come. They think it's the program sucks.
Yeah.
I need to go to this other program. And instead of just, figuring out what part of the program they're on needs to be modified, they dump it all and jump to something else, and they end up staying low level intermediates forever and never move up from there.
You brought up strongman, so I'll get into this one because I'm kind of curious. If you're training for a strongman deadlift where hitching's now allowed, would you, or if someone you were coaching, would you change how they deadlift or how they train it?
I've never trained anybody specifically for strongman, so I need to preface that and say that my answer is just a guess. I wouldn't. I don't think that learning the skill of how to hitch is going to add that much.
Yeah.
It may add some. I don't have any doubt about that. But is the amount that it's going to add significantly different enough to make a difference on the total number of reps the person's going to get? Maybe it might add 1. It's more likely not going to add 3 or 4. So it's not going to be enough to really change. Well, I don't know. Sometimes it comes down to a couple reps, especially on the deadlift stuff. I still wouldn't do it because I don't think the risk is consistent with the benefit. So by that, I mean, when you're dealing with strength sports, there's always the risk benefit ratio. And to be better, in the strength sports, you're going to flirt with that more so than what other athletes are going to do in the weight room. Now, other athletes will do that on the field, on the court, and so forth. It's part of competitive sports. But there's also unnecessary risk, and risk that you can play, but isn't going to, or you can risk that you can take, but it's not going to make a significant difference in the end of the competition. So you might be able to, for instance, say for the squat, you might be able as a power lifter to get super, super bloated, right? And you might squat a little bit more. Now, if you can't blow that water out by the time you deadlift, you're not going to be able to pull your deads.
Yeah.
You're not going to have your hand's going to be too fat. You're not going to have a grip. You're not going to pull it. And, the compression of the bar in your hands for the bench is only going to compound to make the issue worse. So is it really worth the 10, maybe 15 pounds? I mean, raw, it's a lot lower than it is here. But is it really worth that when you're going to lose 5 on your bench and maybe 50 on your deadlift? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Is from that standpoint, in strongman, most of the time, you really don't even know what the events are. And by the time you do know, there's really not enough time to pivot your training that much. Is getting one more rep on one event worth sacrificing the other events? So that would be my answer there, is to always look at the full competition and then analyzing if it's worth it or not. I do see people hitching, but you don't see, not everybody is.
Yeah.
I would say it's 20%, maybe a little less, 20% is probably a good guideline. 20% right around there. And the better they get, the less you see it, unless it's a fuck up.
Yeah.
You know, if the bar fell out, you know, that's just recovering, which they can do that, which I don't even think you have to train that. It's just, fuck, it's here. How am I going to finish it?
Yeah.
And with a strongman mindset, the way it is, they're going to finish it however they can. And powerlifting, they won't, because they know they can do it, but it's not going to count.
Yeah, there's no point anymore.
Yeah.
You've said a lot, maybe this is something that's super obvious to everyone else, that in general, you recover faster from box squats versus free squats. Is that like a joint thing? Is that like a just stress thing?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was something that Louis told me before I came to Westside, and I thought it was bullshit. Because there were times I would train squat twice a week heavy. It never benefited me. But I do know training squat once a week heavy and then once a week light, say 315, 405 for 3 sets of 15 or 20, which I was an 800-pound squatter, so it's 50%. So it's not a lot. You know, I could do that with no warm-up sets. And that, I think, helped. You know, I could see the difference from that standpoint, more so in the ability to be able to grind through a second and third attempt. Where when I didn't do that, if I did hit, you know, the wall, I had no gas to push through it. And for me, those helped. Now, when I went to Westside, it was, you got a box while, or no, actually before that, Louis said, you got a box while you're butt. So I tried it and I got sore as fuck. I'm like, this guy is fucked up. He's out of his mind, because I couldn't, my hamstrings, I mean, everything's sore as fuck. And I never sat back like that before. So I just said, you know, I can't do this because I'm not even recovered to be able to do my light work on the other day. So I would do them for a little while, and then I'd shit can them and then go back to my regular training for the meet. And then I'd do them after the meet, and never acclimated to them because I never did them consistent enough to be able to acclimate to them. Now, when I got to Westside, still thinking this was all bullshit, I kind of stayed away from Louis 6 months or whatever it was, but that's a different conversation. And then when I was forced to do it, it was, you know, unbeknownst to me, it was like 6 weeks, and it's like, holy shit, you know, I'm squatting on Friday and I could bench on Saturday. You know, that wasn't sore at all. And that was the box squat. Now the max effort work was a different story. You know, that shit fucked me up. But I was able to recover faster from that. So I became more of a believer in that because I had my own firsthand experience from it. And then when I started to apply it with my clients, which are Gen Pop clients, it became a far better tool to be able to teach the squat, because you can stop them in the bottom and make the corrections, and they didn't get as sore from that, you know, from that standpoint. So I saw it apply to, you know, people that haven't trained for 15, 20 years, you know, all the way to the top level athletes. But I don't know how much less sore, you know what I'm saying? I can't definitively say that, you know, I recovered 2 days faster because of this, but I will say that for 14 years, we squatted on Friday and did squat on Friday at noon and did max effort work on Monday at 9, you know, and never went into max effort work being sore. So it's a tough call, but I do feel that you can recuperate faster from them. But it can, you know, I go back and forth because, like I said before, there's no definitive answer. So in my mind right now, it's like a ping pong going back and forth thinking, well, is it because the load's lighter? You know, because the percentages are lower than if I was doing the heavier shit at 70 or 80%. So it's more or less a find out for yourself type of thing.
I think this was you. You said at one point you were training your neck and your calves daily on top of like your powerlifting training. Was that to, you think those were like a missing muscle group that would benefit your squat, or?
No, it was because of injuries.
Yeah.
I've never had, any type of knee surgeries or anything like that. But my left knee it would flare up every now and again, and it never swelled, but it never got to a point I had to put on a knee sleeve. It got to a point that there was fucking pain when I'd squat. As soon as I started doing calves, standing or seated calf raises, knee pain go away every single time. So, say it's tendonitis, wear and tear, whatever it was always combated when I started to stabilize the knee by training the calves and maybe adding in TKEs or something like that. But the calves were definitively always what set that back, and pushed it. So it was no pain, and it wasn't like I was masking it because it never got worse. I got other things fucked up, but my knees are fine.
Yeah.
So I attribute that to, the calves, but I also attribute it to box squats, because outside of Louis Simmons and Matt Dimmel, which are, different cases because they did all kinds of training before the box squats, I've never seen anybody doing box squats that's had a knee problem. Never. That's my own personal experience all my years there. I've seen a lot of fucking knee problems doing other type of squats and other type of stuff, but you pick your poison.
Yeah.
Okay, because I can make the same argument that I've seen a lot of fucking hip replacements by people that have done box squat. So it's all conjecture. None of it is definitive proof. It's just my experience from what I've seen. Now the neck was, my shoulder is fucked.
Yeah.
All right. So there's nerve damage in the shoulder and so forth. And when I kept my neck strong, I didn't have the pain in my shoulders. So it allowed me to be able to keep benching. That one was a mask.
Yeah.
Because it was getting worse as I continued to keep doing it, but it was enough of a mask that I was able to push through it and not have the problems. Now, where I experienced most of my pain from the neck was in my traps. So it was going from, the bottom of my skull down through my trap and through there. So the neck works probably just putting more blood into that area to help keep it fresh and to recover, but it wasn't doing anything for what was going on in the joint, which was causing the problem in the first place. That was it. So it wasn't to have a big neck or to have big, I didn't give a shit about that. It was to be able to keep training the way that I was training.
So that was more like the extensions of like neck than like any sort of flexion or lateral. Okay. What's the most popular thing college or private strength conditioning settings are coming to you looking for equipment?
Well, power racks are always the first on the list all the time. That's really it.
Yeah.
It's not really them coming to us. It's us kind of listening to them and figuring out what their training program is and their training philosophy, then being able to recommend to them what equipment's going to fit within their how they train, which isn't really that complicated, but you can't put a commercial gym in a collegiate weight room. There's not enough stations to be able to train the athletes and so forth. So once you know how the coach trains, then you're able to better outfit what their needs are and kind of go from there.
Have you seen any items that maybe before no one used and then that have been riding that wave of popularity or in that cycle frequently?
Yeah, there's a lot of things that kind of come and go.
Yeah.
And it takes time to figure out what's going to stick and what's not. Like a barbell, power rack, that stuff obviously works because it's been around fucking forever. Things like, glute ham raise come in and they're still there, so they work. Plate loaded, machines come and go, sledgerized machines come and go. They come and go based mostly on personal preference because the way that they're typically used, again, it depends upon the training philosophy. If it's, high intensity philosophy, they're going to be used probably more so than what the power racks are, but they're typically used for low end accessory work or injured players.
Yeah.
You can do a chest press with a broken hand. You can't bench, so that comes along. And though I've seen that come and go a lot, but it's still the same seated chest press. It's just different mechanisms on how the machine is or how pretty the machine is or whatever it's going to be.
Yeah.
And, you know, a lot of time and effort is put into that by companies to try to get, you know, market penetration from that. And for most that are outfitting strength and conditioning centers, they're not going to put that much attention in it because it's just satisfying the need of the coach. Because if you put all your attention in that, then you're going to miss something, you know, that they really do want and need. Some of the other things that, like a reverse hypers come in and stayed in, and I don't want to give the names of some of the machines because I don't want to rip on anybody, but there's been a lot of other, I don't want to say knockoffs of reverse hyper, but the same type of machine, a machine developed for a specific purpose, you know, albeit running or jumping or whatever it is. They'll come in and be popular for a year or two and then gone.
Yeah.
You never see it again. Treadmills are the same way. You know, treadmills will come in, you have these super fast treadmills, and then it will kind of die off. Then another one will come in, it'll pick up, kind of die off. So it's the longevity of those things it's a wait and see from that standpoint. When you're around for a long enough period of time, you can kind of see this one has a 80% likelihood that it's not going to be around. It's just a trend, and it's going to burn out and move on from there. I've tried to stay away from trends the most I can because of that reason. You can put a large investment into something that's going to be around for a short period of time and then die out. At the same time, I've missed a lot of opportunities because I haven't jumped on certain things that stayed around and grew. So, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Kind of where to go from there. It's more training that kind of comes in.
Yeah.
That's where you see the equipment. You know, there's higher quality equipment, there's lower quality equipment. I mean, you get what you pay for from that standpoint, but you don't see a lot of new things that come in that are game-changing type of things. You just don't. You know, coaches are going to buy from people that they trust, they like, and that's pretty much where it goes from there. But the training is where you see the fucked up shit all the time.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh shit, we'll see how long this one lasts. And then you find, there it is. It's just another trend. It's going to burn itself out, go out. But the trick when you're a coach is you have to embrace a lot of these things, even if you don't really agree with it, because your players are seeing the same shit everybody else in the industry is. So then they start wondering, hey coach, why am I not doing this? And you can spend all your time, you know, telling them why it's bullshit. But if it's not going to really hurt them and it's not a huge investment, then have them do it. So they just shut up and get onto the stuff that they really have to do. Mm-hmm. It's establishing that trust and that buy-in, you know, because you get that buy-in and then the things that they really have to do are going to be things they don't want to do. Mm-hmm. You know, so if they find things that they want to do and you have to use that as leverage to be able to get them to do the things they don't want to do, then that's what you do. You know, so I've known coaches that have come up with, you know, the best bicep program of all time. And that they give it to the players and it's like, it's not going to help them for shit. But they're going to like me. They're going to buy in more. They're going to trust me. They're going to do the things that they really need to do. So that's where the trend stuff kind of comes in. And where it gets diluted is some of these coaches will do that for that reason. But then whatever company it is that's selling that trend is blowing it up all over, you know, their marketing channels to say, look at what they're doing, you know, and it's one fucking exercise out of 50 that's being done for the whole week. Yeah. You know, it's not making their athletes better athletes. It's being done because he doesn't want to fucking tell them it sucks. Yeah. You know, that's the case most of the time.
Yeah. 80-20 rule.
Yeah.
You know. So some people talk about like posture is the big thing of the new generation. Everyone talks about everyone's doomed because of, you know, now we sit for 12 hours a day on stuff. Do you see that in powerlifting as well? And is there like something you're seeing more people having to do from the younger generation versus the older generation?
Yeah. I mean, whatever trend it is going to trickle down into everything.
Yeah.
You know, it's going to trickle in. It's going to trickle into everything. You just have to take it all with a grain of salt. You know, as I said before, everything can be proven and disproven, especially when it comes to stuff like that. You know, I try to look for the humor in it. So it's like, okay, the same people who are telling you that, you know, posture is the most important thing and you can't have forward head protrusion and all that, are the same people that are telling you that you have to do movements that resemble, you know, things that our late, you know, cavemen were doing. I'm like, oh, you mean the cavemen that had the forward head protrusion and were walking with their shoulders sloped? Those cavemen that, you know, were obviously, you know, not of good posture, you know, by that definition. So there's so many contradictions, you know, within the industry that it's funny when you think about it, because that's one of the classic ones there is, you know, going back to, you know, ancient history, cavemans, and, you know, oh, in the 50s, you know, and this and this and this. And you mean when they were all smoking fucking cigarettes and, you know, all this other kind of stuff. So you have to take it with a grain of salt. You have to look at, you know, a lot of times if you look at what's being quoted and then you go back and actually look at it, you know, they're taking something out of context, you know. So that's where I think the degree in the education comes in, because if you had to go look everything up to see if it's taken out of context or not, when the fuck are you going to coach anybody? Yeah. You know, you want to try to avoid being caught up in the playground thing that spins around. The fuck they call that?
Is the small one called the merry-go-round?
Merry-go-round. You don't want to get caught up in the merry-go-round because it's always going to keep fucking turning and it will get your hair caught in it and turn your fucking head off. If you stay back, you know what I'm saying, from that, and then you get the work done. You get on that and it's this never-ending fucking thing that just makes you dizzy and confused. So you got to go with what seems legit, what doesn't seem legit, because, you know, movement, posture, this is probably the fourth time I've seen it come around. Yeah. You know, it comes around a little bit different every single time, but then 3 years from now, that's not going to be the emphasis. The emphasis is going to be, you know what? Everybody's just fucking weak. They got to get strong. Bottom line, if they got stronger, it's going to correct most of the things. All right, that's where we'll go. You know, then after that, it will go back to, oh, no, we got to back away from all that stuff. We need to work on the movement before you start really loading this. You see what I'm saying? It's just, I've seen it 4 fucking times. You know, so for me, when I see it, it's like, oh, here we go again. You know, so I have a little bit different view on it because I've seen it so many times where you're just coming up into it. You might not have ever seen it before. So you're like, oh, yeah, shit, this makes a lot of sense. But the strength and conditioning profession has been around for a long fucking time. So there's not a lot of shit that's new. There's a lot of shit that's just reinvented from shit that people were doing 10, 20, 30 years ago that comes back into it. So the best thing to do is to master the basics and to not get caught up in all that stuff. And as long as whoever you're working with or yourself is making progress, who the fuck cares? Yeah. Bottom line, who the fuck cares? You know, and that's the focus that you have to keep. You know, because when you keep a broad focus, you're going to get lost in a broad view.
What was the big scary ailment of your time?
Everything.
Everything?
Everything. I mean, I've seen lower backs, I've seen shoulders, I've seen, you know, glutes not firing. I've seen they always find a muscle that you didn't know existed. Yeah. All right, you got exercise physiology, right? You'll hear a muscle, you'll be like, okay. Yeah. And then you got to go look that up. You're like, oh. Okay, I got that. I mean, maybe you knew psoas, transverse abdominis, years ago when you took a fucking test, but now it's like, oh shit, you know, their psoas is weak. That's what's causing all the problems. Yeah. I'm like, you mean that muscle that's way the fuck in there, and the rectus abdominis and the obliques and the lower back don't do shit, right? You know, so that's what I asked. Like the big fucking muscles that are part of the trunk, they no longer do anything. Yeah. Everything's done up inside by muscles that involuntarily contract. Like just flex your psoas. You know how you can flex your bicep?
Yeah.
Just do that with your psoas without flexing it. How do you do that? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know, so it's all those things, they come and go. You know, it's saw it before. Here it comes again. And it's good and bad. You know, if people understand, you know, the context that it's being presented in, you can learn. All right. So if it's enough, if it's the tool that gets somebody to say, oh, maybe I should spend more time learning what's actually going on in the torso, instead of just assuming that it's all going to be fixed with the hanging leg raise and a crunch.
Yeah.
You know, upper abs, lower abs, or whatever bullshit that was. All right. Maybe I need to look a little bit deeper. Then that's a good thing, right? Now it's a bad thing when they're like, hey, everybody's wrong. This is what you have to do. That's when it's a bad thing. So it's all in how the person wants to interpret it. And if you're in the strength and conditioning profession, it's your responsibility to interpret it in a professional view. Like, okay, how does this really matter?
Yeah.
And then you look it up and say, okay, I know more about that now. I see where they might be exaggerating this a little bit just to be able to build a brand or be able to build their own name, which is the case 100% of the time. Not saying those things aren't important, but they're being spoken absolutes and they're being pulled out away from all the other stuff to make them look better. You know, the industry, it is what it is.
Yeah. Gotten through a lot of these.
While he's looking through there, Josh, did you have anything?
Yeah, we had a couple that came through before, just random comments that we've been getting a lot of. Hold on one second here. Sorry about that. One that has been coming in a lot lately has been regarding the Train Your Ass Off series. We've been getting people asking how they can be a part of that. And Dave, I was wondering if you could just kind of explain what that series is and how it came to be and how to get involved.
Okay. The Train Your Ass Off series is something that I came up with, I don't know. When did we do that? In December? November?
Well, we talked about it years ago.
Yeah. When did I do those?
But the first one was in, I want to say November.
Yeah, it was some November-ish. It was something that we've been talking about for a while, but I didn't know how to implement it, because to bring in a small group of people and just basically bust their ass, you know, and train them becomes harder to do than what people will think. Because what if you bring in somebody that's not in shape of everybody else, and then you kill them, you know, or they have a stroke, or, you know, something like that, or, you know, take the worst case scenario away, that you have to modify everything that you're doing for the other three people to be able to suit this one person, which now makes the experience less for the other three people. And the goal of this was to teach whatever the main lift is, which what we did the last time was a squat, as thoroughly as we can, and then have them work up to see if there's, you know, physical weak points as well. And then after that, go into the accessories and then teach them what really, really hard training is. Because people will say, and I'll just use RPE because people can relate to that. People that think that they're training an RPE or an effort of 8, all right, let me really take them to a 10. And then they'll see that their 8 is a 5, you know, which from the standpoint of just one session, it's probably counterproductive as far as the progress they're going to make, because nobody should train that hard, you know, all the time. But from the context of them being able to go back and say, look, my 4 or my 6 has to be a 6. It was a 4. Then that changes the whole training entirely. So the goal was to teach the lift and then to bust their ass. And I couldn't figure out how to make it happen. So I made some post on Instagram in regards to wanting to have, you know, several people out to be able to do this. Then I had, you know, a decent response rate. And then from the responses that I had, I sent everybody a health history and a questionnaire to be able to vet out, you know, what people could be sorted with each other, and was able to get 3 groups out of that. And there were a handful of people that didn't fit into any of those groups. So, you know, unfortunately for them, there was no way to do that because it's hard to take a beginner and throw them with advanced and be able to have the same experience. Now, if I would have had 5 beginners, I could have been able to do that, but it wouldn't have been the same experience either because a beginner shouldn't be training that hard. But that's a whole experience to be able to show them as well. Here's where you should be training as far as that level and the volume should be training at. So when we do another one, I'm going to do it the same way that I did this one. I will get back on Instagram some point in time. It's been 3-4 weeks. I've had other things to do. Instagram's not my first priority in life. Sorry. But I will get back on there because it was a very efficient way. At least for this, I'd have to get back on there because it was a very efficient way to be able to vet people out because they would DM me and then I could tell pretty quick just by going through their own Instagram where they are, from that standpoint. And that's how it's going to happen because I can't just put this on the website as a seminar or something like that and then just blindly have people sign up for it because I'm not going to be able to group them accordingly. And there's not going to be, this large number of people that are interested in it to be able to have that many. So anybody who is interested in it, they want to follow me on Instagram, which is @underthebar. And I'm not posting right now, but that's where I'll do it. I'll make a feed post on there 4 weeks or whatever before I'm going to do this. And I'll put in the post when we're going to do it. But then you'll DM me through that. I'll reply back, send a health history, then kind of go from there. But that's the only way I know how to do it at this point in time without hurting what the experience really is.
Cool. Mason, you got any more for him?
Yeah. You, at one point, were looking to get into strength conditioning way long ago in college, right? Mm-hmm. What was what pulled you off of that?
I did an internship.
Yeah.
With a strength and conditioning coach. And it was a HIIT training coach, so it was high intensity training. And that's not what turned me off. I should point that out because before I did that, all up until I came to Westside, so I started training for my first meet about 40 years ago. So that's how far back we're going now. But I would train my off season from the meets were either wrestling or football or HIIT training. That just seemed to be the easiest thing to do in off season because it was fast. It could get it over with and it didn't take as much time as everything else. And it was, for me, it was great for hypertrophy. It just didn't make me strong.
Yeah.
So that fit very nicely into what I wanted it for. So I was not anti-HIIT by any means. I actually still like it a lot for supplemental and accessory work. It's a very efficient way to knock stuff out that's not super high priority items. And so it wasn't that. It wasn't that at all. It was the time. It's like, holy fuck, this is a lot of time. It wasn't a bad experience. I learned a lot. And it was just an experience that completely changed what I thought I wanted. It's like, man, I don't want to do this. I love training, but if I'm going to be in a weight room for 80 hours a day, I don't know if I want to do that and make $12,000 a year. And I was making way more than that being a bouncer. I'm like, fuck, I'm going to still have to be a bouncer.
Yeah.
And I was trying to get out of that.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't want to still have to do this shit. After doing it for 8 years or whatever it was, like, fuck, I'm trying to not work 3 jobs. And this is just going to be one job that's going to take the same time as all 3 jobs to pay worse than my least job. And I can't do that. Yeah. And I didn't see how it would progress up from there. So it was a mind fuck.
Yeah.
Because it was like, what the fuck now? This is what I thought, I was doing all this for, was to be able to do this. But the fact of the matter is my whole degree was a facade that I just wanted to power lift.
Yeah.
That was my number one priority, was just to be honest, just to powerlift. Everything else I did was to enable me to be able to keep training and to be able to keep competing. And everything else is a deep second place away from that. So it's like, well, this is kind of related to training, so I'd probably be a little better at learning this shit than I am anything else because I can relate to it. And it wasn't until that time period where I realized, oh, fuck, what am I going to do? Like, fuck it, I guess for now, I'll just keep being a bouncer, keep working in gyms while I can and just, at that time you think you're going to compete for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like I was spending a lot of time thinking about my future. I was just thinking about how to get back on the platform again and kind of going from there. So fortunately it all worked out to me because, everybody at the time was telling me this training shit's not going to do anything for you. You need to do something else. And that kind of sidetracked me for a while when I first went to college. So I was a business major for a while, then a quote unquote a sociology major, but not because I knew I was doing it, but just taking courses. Then after I realized, what the fuck am I listening to everybody else for? Is if I actually take these classes, then it might help my own training. And that's why I took the classes, because it would help my own training, which it didn't, but I thought it would. It's looking back on it now that I see what the value was, as a bullshit detector and so forth. It wasn't like I had a plan that this is what it's going to be. But yeah, that kind of fucked me up because it's like, oh shit, this seemed like a cool idea, but man, this isn't. And that's the whole point of interns.
Yeah.
There's a lot of reasons why you do internships, but sometimes you don't figure out what you don't want to do, so that's the benefit of doing those, because you don't want to figure that out once you get out into the workforce and you're trying to build, you're starting to climb the hill. You don't want to climb a hill to fall down the other side.
Yeah.
Agreed. I got a question I could throw in there that I thought was a pretty good topic, unless you got something else here ready for us, Mason.
I think I've pretty much covered everything I plan to cover now.
Okay. This one came from the live stream, and it said, assuming you have the money in business sense, how much experience do you think that someone should have before opening their own gym? Want to start a strongman and powerlifting gym in a small warehouse. Now, when he says experience, I don't know if he means business experience or if he means lifting experience, but...
Well, my quick answer to that is, if you think you have the money and the experience, you're going to fail in a year. That's my answer to that. It's pretty simple, because the people who generally are going to succeed are going to be the people that don't have the money. They have to figure out how to bootstrap and to make things work to be able to grow the business and move forward. It largely depends upon the individual. But I've seen more people fail that go in with friends and family money than I've seen people fail that go in with a power rack and a chair, in a small place that they can barely afford. Those are the people that you find out 5-10 years later have a full training facility, because they learned, the value of a dollar, and they learned the value of a dollar in both ways. They learned the value of a dollar in regards to a dollar spent. So, to spend a dollar through your business, how many dollars does it take to earn that dollar? If you're working on a 10% net profit margin, it takes $10 to be able to have a dollar in profit to be able to spend. And then when you spend that dollar, what's it going to be on? Because it's the only dollar you have. So is it going to be on, a new pair of knee sleeves that you need for your squat, or is it going to be on something that can help the business? So you go through a critical thinking process where it's, what is the highest priority for this dollar to be able to spend? If somebody just gives you all the money, I'm not too sure you develop that sense. And that sense is important, throughout all small business and even mid-sized business. It may change a little bit when it's a large business. I don't know. I haven't been in that setting to be able to know that, but it may. Now, the other part of this was the experience. You may have the experience, but what I generally see is, again, when somebody says they have the experience, they generally don't. So you might have the training experience, which is great, but you don't have the business experience. Or you may have the business experience, but you don't have the training experience or the communication experience. So to fall back, I'm kind of criticizing this person because of the way that they asked the question, which is unfair because it's just a question. But with that, so the actual question was what I got caught up into the.
How much experience do you think that someone should have before opening their own gym?
That wasn't the question. It was, he said he had the experience and the money.
Well, assuming you have the money in business sense.
Okay. If you have to fall back on the original question without me dissecting it all to hell, if you have the money in the business sense, how much experience do you need? Zero, because you're starting a business. So unless you've had a business before, you have zero experience. Most people who start a business have zero experience before going into that. So if it's something that you want to do, a business is not sticking your foot in the water. I'm sorry, it's just not how it works. You got to jump in over your head to be able to figure out if you're going to be able to sink or swim. If you just tip your toe in the water, you're never going to do anything. So the experience is not relevant, because it's not there to begin with. So if it's something that you really want to do, the bigger question is to ask yourself, is it something you really want to do? Sometimes it's just a really good idea and not something that you really thought about, how much sacrifice and time it's going to take. So some things I'll throw out there is, have you thought about how you're going to clean the toilets when somebody blows it all up and leaves the shit all over the place for you to clean up? Have you thought about how you're going to put all the shit away when everybody leaves and the place is a complete fucking mess and you have potential new members coming in the morning to see the place? Because it's easy to say, look, it's a hardcore gym, it can be a mess. That's fine, but do you really want it to be completely fucking trashed if you have a group of 5 people that are looking to come in and train, the next morning? No, you don't. I don't know anybody that does. So you're going to be spending 2 hours cleaning up everybody else's shit. Have you thought about that? So all the things that you haven't been comfortable thinking about, you need to think about, because all those things are going to happen.
Good point. A couple more from the live stream here. Recommendations for getting back into the gym after a multi-year layoff due to non-injury medical issues that should not affect performance.
Oh, man, I know about that bullshit. Lower your expectations substantially, because you're going to come in and you're going to be weak as fuck. So don't compare yourself to anybody else who's in the gym at all, regardless of, say you trained and you lifted 5 years ago and you were strong. You can't even compare yourself to that. You just got to compare yourself to what you are now. And when you go in the gym, if you can't bench the bar and a dime each side, so what? You will. Just don't let that frustrate you, because it will. It's going to frustrate you, because I've been there. I know how it is. But don't let it frustrate you past that actual exercise. So once you do it and you're pissed off about that, go on to another exercise that you're going to be pissed off on how weak you are there, and then just keep making it in on a regular basis until all those things start coming up again. They will. Don't force it, because the layoff was due to medical conditions. I don't know that they are. I'm not a doctor, physical therapist, but I'm assuming that you're okay to train and you've got the clearance on that. Cardiovascular fitness comes back pretty fast. It just sucks, to get used to that. So understand that if you start, walking or doing anything cardiovascular wise, within 2 or 3 weeks, you're going to be fine. It's not going to be that big of a deal. But getting through the 2 or 3 weeks is a different story, because cardio sucks. Strength training is going to take a little longer. You will make progress every session, but don't think you're going to go in there and start benching 315 right away. So that's my advice, is just understand the process, and it's going to take a while.
Okay, a couple more came in if you want to take them.
Mm-hmm.
Does your diet change during a deload week during powerlifting contest prep?
I would say no, but I would also say that's dependent upon if you're in a calorie deficit to begin with. So if you're at a calorie maintenance level, which basically means if you're not tracking anything or having an idea, it means you're not gaining weight and you're not losing weight. So you're at a maintenance level. So regardless of what that is, if that's fine, you don't need to change anything. If you're in a calorie surplus, fine, don't need to change it. If you're in a calorie deficit, yeah, you probably need to change something, because if you're in a calorie deficit, it means you're trying to lose a little bit of weight every single week. And if you go into a deload, which involves not training at all, you're going to be burning less calories per week than what you would have otherwise. So your calorie deficit's going to have to change because you're not burning those calories. So you would go from a slight calorie deficit to a calorie surplus and put on weight or retain water. So that would be the only time I would see that making a difference.
Okay.
And then I wouldn't change it that much because training burns some calories, but it doesn't burn the number of calories people think it does.
Depending on what you're doing, definitely.
Oh, fuck. I mean, a Big Mac's, 900 calories or something like that?
Well, yeah, that's barely even food, though.
Maybe 600. I'm not sure what it is. But a Big Mac is like a fucking squat session.
That's a good way to put it. Do you think rotating between a deadlift bar and a stiff bar is a good idea?
It can be. Anything's worth experimenting with. I've had people do that. The bigger question is, what are you going to compete with? If you're going to compete with a deadlift bar, then I would want to get used to a deadlift bar. But if you're far out from the meet, you can go with a straight bar. It will change the technique a little bit, but only if you're really pulling enough to actually create slack in the bar. So if you deadlift under probably 400, 455, something in that range, it's not going to make any difference one way or another. There's not enough weight to do that. If you want to pull with a straight bar up into the last month and then switch to a deadlift bar, a lot of people have had success with that, but you need to know how to use the deadlift bar or it will throw you off.
Okay. What percentage of your 1 rep max do you recommend for a competition opener if it's your first competition?
It depends what your 1 rep max is. Well, I'll make this easier. Somebody that's asking this question is either going to be an intermediate or lower. So make your opener something you can probably do for 5, right? So it's going to be easy. I'd rather have somebody do their opener that's really easy than something that's an effort. I always try to have people do their opener, which would be pretty close to what their last warm-up would be if they didn't have me giving them any type of guidance. From there, your second attempt can be what you could triple, and then your third attempt should be, a PR in some sense. So forget the percentages, go off that.
Okay, yeah, that's it for the live one. So,
okay.
Thanks for tuning in. Thanks, Mason.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, glad to be on here.